Hello, everybody. This is John Browning with the Building Your Life podcast. We're back for another episode, and we have today with us a special guest, Cathy Dolan-Schweitzer, and there is a story behind everything. I'm really curious what the story is between the Dolan-Schweitzer, and more importantly, and nobody can introduce yourself better than you can. What is it that you do? And more importantly than that, why do you do it?
Yeah, well, John, so nice to join you this morning. My name is, of course, Cathy Dolan-Schweitzer. I own a company called Health Well Done. I started that company probably, yeah, about, 12 years ago. I help healthcare construction teams build healthier people, health and stronger teams, and better projects. That's what I do, and we're going to get into explaining how I do that.
Okay.
And the reason why it's so funny how, of course, and I tell young professionals this all the time, don't worry so much about what you're going to do in the future, because I would call it an evolution. So my backstory is not to get into it too much, but I started out not knowing really. Actually, I did start out saying I wanted to be a teacher. And at that time, my
Okay.
dad said to me, "Oh, there's so much opportunity in the corporate world for women. Why don't you think about that?" And I said, "Dad, no, I really want to be a teacher." So I went to school, came out of school as a special education teacher, taught for 2 or 3 years, and ended up transitioning into the corporate world. Started out in sales, um, basically telemarketing sales, and ended up within, I would say, a month's time, training the whole department and then stepping into events. Because I worked for a bottled water company at the time, Crystal Rock Bottled Water. And that was really fun for me, running events, and then ended up stepping into the world of project management in construction. And again, this is a total evolution. There was many steps in between. So I worked for a outside owner's representative company, and I was running, all kinds of different projects. But then I got assigned to a hospital, building a MOB, which is a medical office building. And for some reason, it wasn't an easy project. I actually started eating Rolaids right from the get-go because it was not an easy project. But when I finished that, for some reason, I fell in love with healthcare. And the reason why was because I felt that I was really helping the world, that there's something about working in a healthcare project that you really dive in because you understand that the end product, that built environment, not just serves, um, being a project that's completed, but now all of a sudden it's like a container for those people who are trying to heal. It holds their emotions, it holds all of the sadness they may be going through and all the happiness they may be going through. But there's a lot that's contained in that built environment that nobody ever really dives into and thinks about. But when you work a project, you understand the healthcare professionals, you understand the service line. What are they trying to do? And you really have to understand the patient. So for me, it was kind of like a great mission that I had stepped into and didn't, and I fell into it, honestly. So when I was at Stanford Hospital, the COO there said to me, "Listen, if you're going to join our team, then I need you to stay here for 2 years because we are building a new culture here." And that culture was something called a plane tree culture. Now, plane tree, of course, is if you were to think about it, it's like a franchise. I hate to say it that way because I think it has much more heart to it. But it's like Burger King and all the rest of them, right? There's a certain criteria you follow. And the criteria was number one, a way that you take care of the patient. And they believed in all the alternative healings. So they believed in like massage and Reiki, and they believed in art therapy and pet therapy and those types of things. So that even made it more interesting for me because as as a teenager, I worked in a health spa, and that health spa brought a whole new meaning to me and as far as healing goes. And I was into alternative healings. Okay, I'm telling you this story for a reason because once I got into building and being involved in the building, my heart really got into it. I thought, this is something I'm very interested in. And one day across my desk came something to go back to school for a master's in integrated medicine. Now, of course, if you think to yourself, again, I have a very eclectic background, you think to yourself, why would someone in construction, in project management, want to go back to school and get a master's in integrated medicine? Why wouldn't they go back to school and get a master's in construction management or something like that?
Right.
Or organizational development or something like that. But I felt so drawn to that, and I'm so happy I took that particular graduate program because, first of all, my dissertation was to write a 185-page book on how to bring integrated medicine into a hospital environment. So this is back in 2009 or 2008, I graduated. And so what happened there was I started to say, you know what? I believe that conventional and alternative healings are going to come together. That means that, for example, if you have massage and Reiki and all these, as they would say, woo-woo type of things, they're going to actually come together with the conventional healing, taking medication, whatever it may be, that you're doing from a conventional standpoint. Now, this is going to take care of relaxing you, maybe some of your spirituality, et cetera, et cetera. So when I graduated from that program, now here I am, I'm still working at the hospital, managing projects, and I am so lucky that I've stepped into every single specialty. So now I'm learning a lot about healthcare. I'm learning a lot about the specialties. And I graduate from school and I start going out and I start speaking at conferences on how to bring integrated medicine into a hospital environment. And so this is probably 2010. And the audience is like sitting there, what is she doing smoking dope in the parking lot? What is she thinking? This is never going to happen. So that
Right.
was my response, right? So, okay, life goes on, and I'm back at the hospital, and my boss says to me in 2010, hey, listen, I want you to build a chemotherapy pharmacy in the cancer center. And I immediately was like, no, no way. I'm afraid of that place. I can't go in there. And he said, look, it's high on the food chain. A lot of eyeballs are on this. You're the only one who can actually build that pharmacy that I know of while keeping the chemotherapy, whole area working at the same time. Because we have 75 chemotherapies that go on every single day, and you're going to be in the middle of it. And I know you're the one who can actually get this done. So I finished the job in April of 2010. And in May of 2010, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Mm.
So now here I am. I have my integrated medicine background. I'm so lucky because the Bennett Cancer Center believes in integrated medicine. And I don't even want to do chemotherapy. And of course, my husband, who is a prosthodontist, and my one of my best friends who's a nurse kind of shake me and say, you have to do chemotherapy. So, okay. And I do the chemo. Now I'm being treated in the environments that I actually had worked in. So
You
I
actually built
really,
or helped build.
yeah, so I know the place well. And I took 8 months off. And when I took 8 months off, I had a lot of time on my hands. So you can imagine someone like me who has, a lot of ambition and needs to be busy all the time. Now I'm going through this, chemotherapy, and I am so fortunate that the Bennett Cancer Center offers massage and sound healing and all kinds of wonderful therapies that help me, support me through this time that my life is totally changing. So every time I would lay on the couch, I'd be like, oh, I gotta like paint that. Oh, I gotta like fix that fence. Oh, I have to. I have to fix that screen, whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, I don't have the energy. So one of the things I used to do was I watched this show called Design on a Dime. And in 30 minutes, they would look at a place, they would totally like recreate it. And at the end, they would finish it. And for some reason, that gave me such satisfaction. I was like into this show. I was like addicted. And that, and so I thought that that was really funny. I think I needed to feel like things were getting accomplished and I couldn't do anything at that time.
Hmm.
Okay. So now we beam into 2012 and I come back to work. And the first project my boss hands me is to renovate the reception area of the cancer center and the blood lab. So they hand me a little they hand me a schematic plan. And I look at it and I go, no, 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 no. This is terrible. This is like putting lipstick on a pig. This is not going to help the patients. And look, since they were a Plain Tree Hospital and they really believed in not only taking care of the patients, but taking really good care of the caregivers and all the medical professionals, basically they said, okay, we'll listen to you. So they did. And we redid everything so that when you first walked off the elevator, you saw the reception desk and you saw a friendly face. And the blood lab was relocated to the other side so you could look over atrium instead of feeling as if you weren't even, you were in some sort of a dark, place.
Hmm.
And that gave me great satisfaction. But I knew that I didn't belong in that role, I guess, anymore. And I don't want to say it that way. I just felt there was something else. So I hired a business coach to try to formulate some of the ideas that I had while I was, had so much time off. And one of the things that kept coming up to me was that as a patient, I didn't realize that so many things that I actually were involved in really impacted the patient. And I'll give you an example. So when I was in the hospital, and they cut my core, so it was almost it was hard, for me to sit up and do other things. So the nurse said to me, "Listen, I'm going to put you in the reclining chair." And she said to me, "Okay, fine. Look, here's what we're going to do. Ultimately, you're going to hold on to my elbow. I'm gonna I'm gonna, take the handle here and flip it so you're gonna go back." And she said, "But I want you to hold on to my elbow because it's gonna go back pretty quickly." Well, she hit the handle and I was like, "Oh my God." And so I said to I sat there and I was like, "Oh my God, like I was the one who said yes to these chairs. I was the one who made that decision, for the recliner."
Uh-huh.
Okay. So there were all these different things that kept coming up that, patient sees things differently than a project manager or an
Mm.
architect or anybody else.
Or than the
And
CFO who's trying
or
to
the
just look only at
CFO.
costs. Yeah.
Yeah, or the CFO. And so that's when I started to develop my health well done framework. And I started to really think to myself, what's really important here is, and we sometimes don't think about this, but what's so important here is that first of all, it was me as the project manager, right? When I lead these teams, am I taking care of myself? Am I making sure that I'm not too stressed out, that I'm not working too much, not that I'm not taking on every single person's load? Because we do that, right? We think it's all on us. So that's one. The second thing I always thought about was the patient. Like, so if you're going to build an environment and you really have to think through the patient, right? What are they going through? So, for example, we built a respiratory, let's say we'll call it a pulmonary practice, but it was, a lot of people went there for respiratory therapy. And so it was 300 feet from the front door. Well, you have to think about the fact that someone may not be able to walk that far. So you have to put a couple of benches along the way so they could actually sit. and
Yeah,
rest
the
before they
whole
get
point
there.
being they're having trouble with their breathing, right? So that needs to be
Exactly.
closer, or there needs to be things in between so they can rest. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of that. So healthy people was born, as I would say. That's the first part of the framework, or the first element of the framework, is that who are you as a person, as a leader? Who are you? Who are the people that you're building it for, and how do you keep them healthy, and how do you keep you healthy? So that's healthy people. The second on in the actual framework, the second element is healthy team. And healthy team is all about, look, you as the leader step into your team. You have got to create the environment that makes them feel safe so that they can speak up. You have to make sure that you are connected to them. And you have to be able to have that environment so that people can actually talk openly. Because when you build on an idea, this is like one person says, oh, well, I think it should be blue. Well, it has to be okay for the next person to say, well, I think it's blue and white. And the next person to say, well, what if we do blue, white, and red? And then we put it in a square. And then and then because an idea takes time to build. And if we want to continue to be innovative and we want to continue to solve problems and challenges, we need that environment where that can actually happen. And so it's so important in healthy team that number one, you create the environment where people can speak openly and feel like they're safe, bring things up ahead of time before they become problems, and also feel as if you're going to want to work with these people again and again, right? So there's that got to be that connection. And then the third thing that came up and this is the third element of the Health Well Done framework. It's called Healthy Project. And that is that the built environment is literally a mirror of the culture of that team.
Hmm.
Okay, so now think about that. Now, one of the things I talked about earlier on was that when I was building the actual environments with my teams, I felt like there was more involved. That is a container for everything that they're going through. And let's face it, you lose a lot of control when you're sick, right? You're sick, you can't pick up a cup of tea, you can't sit up, you can't do all these different things. All of a sudden, you might have been leading a team of professionals. Now you're needing a team of professionals.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
different place. So the healthy project is really the actual result of the healthy people and the healthy team working together. That's how it shows up. It shows up in the actual physical environment. And I think, we in our business have tried to get much better, and I think we have. But I think we're focused a lot more on budget and schedule, and that is important too. But I think you can build in the very beginning when you use the Health Well Done framework because it's repeatable and it has a language you can speak about, which is important, and it's holistic. You can build that intention into the very beginning of the project so that it sets the pace and the tone for how the project's going to work. Okay, so basically, that's the reason why I do what I do, because it was a long answer, but it's like I feel that real passion and connection that I'm making a difference. And I felt like all of these things that I have this eclectic background, like becoming a special education teacher and then moving into a project management position and then building in healthcare's environments and then going back to school and having an integrated medicine, degree, all brought me to where I am today. It was kind of like a stepping stone, but it was where I belonged. I need to, I'm here to make a difference in healthcare, which is what I've said to my husband all along.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing and what you kind of just said all together is that all of your experiences combined, including getting sick yourself
Yeah.
and getting that perspective, have all led you to this idea that it's a complex system, right? It's not just about the money, but it is a very important part. It's not just about the patient, but they're an integral central part. It's also about the nurses that are working. Do they have an environment where they can get a little rest, where they can provide the proper care in the easiest way possible for them? Is it a right environment for the doctors? Is it a combination of not just pumping chemicals into your body, but also potentially using massage and some of the other things out there that we know there's clear clinical evidence also helps in the healing process, sound healing and all that. It's not one or the other. One is not bad and one is not good. They can all be good, and when used together the right way, just like any, it's definitely important and necessary in the healthcare field, which is where God kind of prepared you to serve best, right? But I found that like when I was on Wall Street, we would build things so that the larger company could make a lot of money. And then as an
Yeah.
afterthought, it would be, well, is it actually a good investment? Oh, no, it's terrible investment. Okay, how can we make it good enough that we can still make money? Things like that. It wasn't like, okay, the investor first, and then everybody needs to make money. So okay, now let's add that in there together. And is it possible? Putting things together in the right way, considering all of not just the users and the beneficiaries of what gets done, but also considering how it all produces a result, and understanding that not one thing is not evil or bad and the other thing is not all good, but together they can be great. That's really what I'm hearing you saying. But you having all of this experience from starting out in the sort of the people business, I think up to as a special education teacher, you're starting with a compassionate heart. My daughter does the same thing. She's got her own LLC, empowering people's potential, and she teaches kids and adults that are somewhere on the spectrum that have, she calls them special abilities, because
Yes.
normally folks like that have a special ability that's sort of overemphasized. And she has a great way of finding that and finding ways to help them learn better and amplifying that. And in the healthcare space, who would have thought that taking a group of plumbers and drywallers and framers and pipe fitters and everybody else that goes into it, architects, and maybe sitting down with them and saying, hey, keep in mind that this might be your loved one
Yes.
sitting in this chair. Keep in mind it might be
Yes.
you sitting in
That's
this
right.
chair.
That's
How
right.
real and how much more effort do you want to put into this project now? And one thing I noticed on your LinkedIn, you recently put out a post, and I believe it said something to the effect that you were looking at the numbers, things didn't seem right, and what you really found out is that along the way, somebody somewhere, it wasn't that nobody saw the problem. People on the team saw the problem, but were for whatever reason afraid or thought they would look dumb or for whatever reason didn't speak up. So you get these problems, and this happens in every leadership position, and whether it's on Wall Street or a legal office or anywhere else, you get somebody who's afraid for whatever reason to speak up and point out this problem that they see that other people might not have the perspective to see. And I know it happens in wealth management too, because you get folks that have one of several different perspectives. One, maybe they're a high level executive that has been very successful, maybe a lawyer, maybe a doctor, whatever. And in their zone of genius, they pretty much know everything. And
Yes.
they then assume that they know
Yes.
everything, even if it's not inside
Yes.
their zone of genius. And they kind of don't accept other people's perspectives, and people get afraid to speak up or whatever. That happens in wealth management, it happens everywhere. So I think if we can all kind of recognize, generally speaking, there's not any one thing that's right or wrong. Sometimes there's some black and white out there still, I believe that. But if you can combine good things, you can make something great. And that's kind of what your book is about and what you do is all about. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think I speak about my integrated medicine background because the integrated medicine curriculum teaches you to look at things from a holistic viewpoint, right? To really get to know the person, and then and I think one of the best classes is when we did a treatment plan for a diabetic patient, and we used alternative healings and conventional healings together. And it was really the light bulb went off for me. The other thing too is, for example, even, and I don't want to go off on a tangent because I can, but when, you have like the elderly patients, when you think about like if you're over 85 or you're 90 and they're anxious in the hospital, if you make a call to you make a call, the nurse makes a call to the doctor has to make a call to the pharmacy then has to put together the medication, and then it takes 3 hours. Whereas if you went in there as the nurse and you knew something called M-Touch, it's kind of like where you massage, in between the thumb and the forefinger, and just massage, the hands, and you'll calm the patient down, and that can happen immediately. And that's why I'm saying that both alternative and conventional can work together in so many different cases.
Mm-hmm.
And that thinking, right, is what helped me create the Health Well Done framework and write the book. Now, the book I wrote I published it in 2018. It took me 4 years to write that book, and
Mm.
it was almost like a healing for me. But honestly, I never wrote well. And when I went, and I think it was kind of interesting because when I went to graduate school, my husband, who writes very well, helped me a lot. And you can imagine the conversations between the two of us. Um, but he was very helpful. But when I went to write the book, I didn't want him involved because I thought, I just want to be able to like really get all this out. And I was very fortunate to hire a wonderful editor. I waited actually a year for her, and she didn't take the heart out of the book. She worked with me and she took my ideas and really helped me to craft them and organize them. And so the book I'm very proud of. And not only, I just thought, when you're a healthcare project manager, this book is a wonderful reference you can use because it has everything in it, right? It talks about I think one of the things my editor, I told her, I said, Mary, please, I want these stories in the book because I think people can only understand what you go through unless the stories are there and you don't take the heart out of it. Because there's a lot of project management books out there that are like Melba Toast,
Yeah.
and I didn't want it.
They
I
don't have
didn't
any
want it to be
stories. They
like
don't have
that.
any real life
No,
in them, right? Yeah.
no,
And this
no.
book does. Health Well Done
And
has that.
yeah,
Just same thing as the Build a Life, Not a Portfolio. I wanted it, same thing. I wanted it to
yeah.
be real for people. This is not a bunch of numbers and calculations and super complex ideas and thoughts and strategies. Build a Life, Not a Portfolio is about you. It's about me. It's about the guy walking down the street that may not, or the high level executive that might be chasing the portfolio and chasing the big paycheck and not realizing that I just gave up how much of my life.
Exactly. That's so important.
And the
Yeah.
same thing with Health Well Done. You've included those stories to make it about real people because you lived it.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, again, I really enjoy and enjoy what I do. And when I was a project manager, I really even oh my God, it's so stressful. It really is. But there's nothing better than getting involved in a project, learning all the background information, and then actually seeing what you've done and seeing that actual environment. And I think when look, I've been doing this white paper, Construction Made Human, Teams Under Pressure. I'll be writing the paper in next month. But I've been interviewing all of the healthcare leaders, architects, engineers, all the people in capital projects for institutions, et cetera, construction managers. And one of the things that, I ask is, you know, kind of tell me a little bit about your people, like how you motivate. And they said, you know what, look, most of the people who are in healthcare feel a connection to the fact that they're doing something really good because the pressure is high. And if they
Mhm.
don't have that compassion, they don't stay in it because they're like, this is nuts, you know.
Yeah, this is nuts. And guess what? I'm
This is not,
not really getting paid that much for all this. My wife is a
yeah,
nurse, and yeah, she's
yeah.
like, this is at what point is this not worth it anymore? And she was at it for 35, 36 years and just recently stepped back to help me more full time here at Guardian Rock. But she was on her feet for 35 years, taking care of all sorts of different people, but for most of her career, taking care of babies that you could, fit in the palm of your hand, the
Yeah.
neonatal intensive care unit. And some of the political stuff and just the
Oh, I know.
nonsense. And all
I
she wanted
know.
to do was help babies and help their families through a really hard time.
Yeah.
Uh,
And we love our nurses. Our nurses are amazing. And you can see they're tough. You don't want to mess with none of those nurses. I'll tell you something right now.
mhm.
But I will tell you that they're the best. They're the backbone of healthcare. They really are.
Yeah,
So thank your wife for all she has done. We really do appreciate it.
yeah. Well, I want to make sure that people know how to get a copy of your book. And I think it's a book not just frankly, it's a leadership book, I think. When I read through it, it's not just for healthcare professionals or construction workers or general contractors. It's for them, but it's really got some great lessons in leadership, the way that I interpreted, you know, interpreted it when I looked through it. So I want people to be able to get that book. Where's the best of Amazon, or the reach out to you through LinkedIn, or what's the best way for them to be able to get that?
Yeah, so you can order it on Amazon, or you could actually, if you go to my website, healthwelldone.com, you can also, there's a section on the book, and you can, click on there, and that can take you to, Amazon to buy it. But the funniest thing that you said, it's not just for, healthcare construction. It's interesting because, my husband is a prosthodontist, and we're very much involved in the dental world. And one of the instructors from Penn came up to me at one of the events and said, I bought your book and I actually followed everything involved to build my dental office. So you really have to come and see it. And I almost fell off the chair when she said that. And I thought, well, that's a wonderful compliment. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, even the dental world is using it.
yep, that's right. It really kind of cuts across industries, and I mean, dental is still healthcare, but
Yeah,
it
you're
it
right.
does it cuts across all industries. When you really care about the people that you're serving, things like that matter. And yeah, are there people in every industry that only care about the dollar? Yes, and those are the ones we hear about most often, unfortunately, because they make good headlines for the newspapers. But I will tell you, in every industry, I've also found sometimes you got to look harder than you do at other times. But I found that there are people that are passionate about what their zone of genius is, that are passionate about serving the people that they serve. And it's about the people, it's not about the IT. It's not about the how do we get it done quick? How do we get it done cheap? It's about how is it going to serve the people, and that's what I think really makes us, call this sensational statement, but a better world, right? And no, you can't solve all the problems that are out there, but you can solve the ones that you can. It doesn't give you an
Well,
excuse for not trying or learning more about how to do it a better way, which is maybe getting your book
yeah,
and
getting my
starting
book,
there.
but it's interesting because I can't forget about money when it comes to my world because it's there's a lot driven by that.
Yep.
My program is called Caring is Our New Currency. And I speak about that because when you get involved with your team and you have that connection and people are able to speak up, et cetera, you can save money. When you don't have that and somebody doesn't speak up, your change order costs are through the roof.
Through, yeah,
And that basically, and so what I always say is there is a non-care tax that we have. It's a line item on your budget that you don't even, it's not there, but you pay for it. So it money is involved in making sure if you follow this, the Health Well Done framework and you have a language and it's repeatable, it helps to save money.
yeah, that's invest up front, whether it's invest in the time or the money up front, and
The
talk and
relationships.
listen to the relationships of the people who know, and they're maybe it's a microcosm of the whole thing, but it all matters. Then you end up saving money in the long term as well. And I think money guys need to have that driven deep into their skull, right? They tend to just look at the numbers and not the people and relationships and the people who really understand how things get done, but more than that, how things get done well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Cathy, I appreciate you being on the podcast. This has been fun. And I'm going to have all your contact information so people can reach out to you on LinkedIn. Uh,
Yes, please do.
Definitely. Do you have a website that they should go to as well?
Yeah, my website is healthwelldone.com.
Okay.
And but you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Cathy Dolan-Schweitzer on LinkedIn. And I hope to hear from some of you for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's worth a conversation with Cathy and the team and just getting perspective and learning from her and maybe even having her come in, maybe to speak, maybe to help you manage a project that really matters. So again,
Yeah.
thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate
Yeah, thank you, John. It's been a pleasure. And it's always good to have a conversation about what's going on with me.
it. That's right. All right. We will see everyone next time on the Building Your Life podcast. And everyone who's a regular listener knows you can reach out to me at guardianrockwealth.com, or you can text the word life to 321-421-5213. We'll see you again next time on the Building Your Life podcast.